Big cats like bones too. Chapter 1. Tomorrow will be a good day. What exactly do you mean, the pipes are gone? You air quote as you glare at the man standing across from you. He fidgets nervously under your gaze, intimidated and anxious.
Just what I said. They took 'em, ripped 'em right out of the walls. With as much work as we have, we've been trying to subcontract out the work as much as possible to keep the things on time. It was a new company, but every review we came across said they were good, quality workers.
He looks away from you and mutters,
Guess they were fake reviews.
"No!" you say, words dripping in sarcasm. Fake companies only ever use real customer verification reviews on their services? You both are quiet for a moment. There's nothing he can say, and really the company he had used robbed him too. You sigh, letting go of the tension in your body. You were so tired. And why exactly would they take all of my piping?
Well, these old houses, and especially old churches like this, are mostly chock full of copper pipes. Copper, as you know, sells for quite a bit.
You had not known that. You had never thought about the worth of the pipes running inside your walls. This Reno house you purchased was teaching you all sorts of things you had never really thought of before. You look around at the ripped-up walls in your living room, long gashes in the walls and along the ceiling where the pipes were pulled out. Honestly, at this point, the house would look better if it was just studs. Any particular reason why a company you've never worked with before was left unattended in my home? And how long is this going to take to fix? He fidgeted again, feet shuffling. You could smell the nervousness creep right back in. Not good news then.
We have 3 other houses we're trying to build right now. We don't have time to babysit every piece of work we contract out.
He rubs his hand over his face, irritation overcoming his nervousness.
Of course, we will fix it, reimburse you for what you've already paid, but
He gestured towards the damage done.
the repairs are going to take a while. My plumber is booked for another couple of months, and we can't really get started on anything else until we get that fixed.
You understood the guy's predicament. And Randy, he had been fair and honest with you since you started this project 4 months ago. He had let you know that he was taking on other jobs to take advantage of the housing boom that had been created when the monster barrier came down. Monsters, who had apparently been trapped under the local mountain, had been recently freed from their underground prison and were now in need of homes to live in. The housing market quickly became a seller's dream. Monsters and people who wanted to live with monsters buying up every piece of property available. But for you, it had only meant more money. Even though you had purchased your church well before monsters were a thing, materials were always increasing in price. And labor. And the rent on the place you were currently staying while you waited for your home to be made into a livable condition. You would have to renew your lease. You really didn't want to renew your lease. It would mean at least another 6 months of paying both rent and mortgage. But you couldn't expect Randall to be able to drop everything and move this along. Maybe if you hadn't been pressuring so hard to get things done quickly, this situation could have been avoided. Unfortunately, you did pressure him, and now you will have to pay for that decision. You would survive. You would just have to cut back on your designer choices. Again. And eat ramen. Wherever. You had purchased an old church on the outskirts of old downtown with the intention of making it into a home. Someone previously had already attempted to do so, but quit halfway, and the little church had been left abandoned for years before you stumbled upon it. You had fallen in love with the 100-year-old church charm of the building, with the artwork of its architect, the high open ceilings, industrial-sized kitchen, and with the stained glass windows. More importantly, though, the entire building was filled with hope. All the years of prayer and congregation had seeped into the worn wood of the building. Being here calmed your inner beast, soothed her in a way few places in this city had been able to do. So this was the home for you. Even though you really didn't have any idea how to run a Reno, or have any real talent for design, or budget, or any marketable skills to make things cheaper for you. But that didn't matter. This would someday be your home. You had to keep believing, even if by the time you finished this damn house you were going to be 80 and poor. You and Randall had talked for a while longer. After he gained enough courage to actually show and explain to you about the damage and debt, he had a few ideas on how to make the best of the bad situation. The walls were already torn up due to the robbing of your piping. Might as well use the opportunity to make a few upgrades, and maybe rearrange the layout. Again, though, these things cost money. Money you really didn't have, so your housing project kept getting put on everyone's back burner while they worked on more lucrative builds. Home frustrations aside, current events were suddenly exciting. Monsters roamed the streets, were buying houses and setting up shops all over the city. The barrier went down about 2 months ago, and after a great deal of political nonsense, monsters were just now freely being allowed to enter the city and start their new lives on the surface. You hadn't met a whole lot of them yet, but it was only a matter of time. After all, your career would make sure of that. Once Randall leaves, you decide to go back to work. Not really excited to head back into the office, but crime didn't stop just because you were in financial hardship. If anything, your financial hardships made your job more necessary than ever. The office was busier than normal. As a police officer for Ebbet City, it wasn't like you were not ever not busy. But again, monsters. Monsters made people unsettled, which led to protests and pushbacks in the human communities, and a ton of complaints. You sure have been loving all those calls about concerned citizens worried for their lives because a monster decided to breathe, or the conspiracy theorists who have been hairdressing dispatch. On your way in the door, you pass a sign for Foster Monster Program. There were actually a pretty big government-backed initiative to assign monsters to a human foster family to help them accommodate to surface life. Your twin brothers, Jack and Josh, already signed up and tried to convince you to join in as well. Truthfully, you had considered it for a moment. You weren't afraid of monsters, and it wasn't like you didn't have the room. You looked at the ad again.
Foster a monster. Looking for human ambassadors to house and host monsters and monster families. Ambassadors must be open-minded and believe in the value of cross-culture exchange and be willing to embrace and celebrate diversity. Help monsters assimilate into human society. Make a difference and help bring two worlds together. Make your opinion count. All ambassadors will be consulted during discussions of future policies. The knowledge you collect will be essential to making new laws and policies fair to all parties. Counseling and focus groups available to help navigate tough cultural differences. Further access to resources if problems occur. Includes paid stempage.
You cringed as you read the ad. It was just so cheesy. There was no way you could sign up for something like that. Not that you should have a roommate anyway, especially not one trying to learn about blending into human society. Pretty sure you were a terrible example of what a human was. You were interrupted from your musings by Officer Darrell. Darrell had been divorced the entire time you had known him, but was recently decided that he would like to try again. With you. You could not always contain just how flattered you were. He was a nice enough guy, about 10 years older than you, and a little portly. He always smelled stale, like he had only worn clothes from the too clean to wash but too dirty to hang back up pile. But he was a boys' club graduate.
Hey, listener.
He paused when he sees what you are looking at.
You aren't considering that program, are you? Single gal like yourself shouldn't be inviting monsters into your home.
You shrug and decide to ignore most of the problems in that sentence. The stempage is kind of tempting. Would love to get some more money flowing into the Reno, but this is more of my brother's thing. He frowns at your answer and continues sternly.
Money isn't worth the risk you would be taking. Who knows what they would do to you behind closed doors? You shouldn't be putting up posters making it easy for women to be preyed upon.
You looked at him and gave him an exaggerated eye roll. Darrell, There is just too much wrong with what you are saying. 1, they are people. Magic people, but still people. I am 100% positive that they didn't free themselves from the underground and move to the surface just so they could rape all of our womenfolk. 2, it isn't like I'm some delicate flower. I'm a cop. I do dangerous shit for money. It is literally my job. What I do for money. 3, whatever happens behind my closed door is my business. You look him in the eye as you make your points. It didn't take more than a moment before he looks away, eager to change the subject.
That's true, I guess.
He grumbles.
Hey, how did it go with the contractors? Must not have been good if you were looking for more money. You know, I could get them to go easy on you. Sometimes you gotta let a man talk to them. Let them know what you aren't just some lady waiting to get taken advantage of. Give them the impression you got a man that knows what's up.
He smiles, pleased with his attempt at chivalry and what he probably felt was a smooth recovery. He just doesn't give up. Yeah, that isn't necessary. He waved off his offer. Contractors are fine. I was just given an opportunity to make a lot more big changes to the house. It's actually super exciting.
I see. Well, if you change your mind.
If I need a man to come step in and make those contractors keep on their toes, I am sure I can get Chief to come help me out. Lord knows that man owes me a few favors. You chuckled and started heading back to your desk. That being said, I better get back to work. Break was over 10 minutes ago.
Okay. See you around, listener.
Yippers. You grin at how awkward you are. Who the hell says yippers after you shoot a man down? You wish he would just ask you out. That way you could reject him once and for all. Daryl would never be the man for you, even if you could ignore all the sexism. If he had a problem with monsters, what would he say if he found out you weren't human either? You see the mile-high pile of paperwork, including a nice new stack of complaints. You rub your temples, trying to strive off the headache that was forming. It was going to be a long day. It's late when you finally get home. Officer work had kept you busy the entire afternoon, and then Chief Johnson had asked you to go out onto an unmanned patrol, keeping you working past your scheduled shift. You should be glad to finally come to get home. You open your door and your apartment is empty and quiet. What should have felt peaceful and calming felt oppressive. You turn on the lights, kick off your shoes, and shamble your way to the fridge. Nothing but cheap, greasy leftovers to microwave. You hadn't been to a grocery store in ages, too lazy to actually make your own food. When motivated, you actually loved to cook, but why bother when it was just you? You miss cooking for your family. When the microwave beeps, you take the container and flop down on the couch, eating out of the Tupperware like an animal. Eventually, your thoughts go back to your bleak financial situation. Takeout would probably need to stop. It just wasn't very cost-efficient. And you suppose that you could always move after the lease was up, but as expensive as it was, the apartment was very convenient. Close to work and your various gyms, about 10 minutes away from the boys. It was gated and looked like the security was top-notch, but really there were no cameras and had plenty of opportunities for slinking in and out unnoticed, which suited your needs perfectly. No, you would have to stay in the apartment. That was really the best choice for what was available in the area. You would just need to figure out how to keep it. The rent would be a small issue. It was just so expensive, and with you needing to put so much more into the Reno projects, you really didn't know how you were going to make do. It should be fine. You wish you could get a roommate. You had a few friends that would probably be more than willing to come and move in with you, but secrets are hard to keep with a roommate, and sometimes you could be a little territorial. Okay, maybe very territorial. But leopards naturally have large territories, and here you were, stuck in the middle of the city in an apartment with no yard, no chance to shift and run and hunt like you wanted. Your church had a decent-sized yard. Not enough of one to let you run and hunt, but you could probably risk letting your cat out and laying in the grass on moonless nights. As a were-leopard, you didn't need to run and hunt as much as your canine cousins, but you did need to shift every now and then to appear your wild soul. Once a month or so, you needed to make the drive back to your family's country home, or you would become too irritated and aggressive to do your job properly. Having a restless beast soul affected your judgment. Maybe you were too close to the surface, ready to take over. You were actually probably due for another trip soon. You were tense and gloomy, and a hunt would fix that. Until you could, though, you would need to settle for virtual substitution. You power up your console and TV and pop in one of your favorites, Dishonored. You enjoy playing games where you can slink in the shadows and hunt people down. Your big cat was a shadow beast, ambushing prey after hours of patient waiting. You play for a few hours before you give up. The game was just not soothing you like it should. You need more action. Something real. Maybe you could go to the gym and find someone to spar with you for a while. Could never go full out, but it usually helped. Wait, tomorrow is Thursday. You look at the calendar and slowly a grin breaks across your face. Tomorrow you were visiting the academy to teach the recruits some disarming techniques. The real instructors had an event or something and had asked you to substitute. You would have to go easy on them, but there were definitely worse things you could have done than throwing around a couple of recruits. Tomorrow would be a good day.